Okay, hi everyone. My name is Marie-Ève, but people might call me Mel because it's easier in English. Also, some people know me as the letter Z because this is way more easy to say, like it's just one letter. I do cool videos on YouTube about animation in general, and I'm here today with an amazing guest that is going to introduce herself to you. Yay!
Hello, everybody. I am Carolyn, also known as Renee, and I am a character artist, a illustrator, a background artist, background painter, character designer, and painter. But today I'm just limiting it to just character artist. I worked in the animation industry since 2017. Got my first start at Mercury Filmworks. Worked on shows like Hilda, The Ghost and Molly McGee, Kid Cosmic, and all kinds of other things. We're going to talk more about the stuff I've worked on as we hang out over here. And yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, the subject that we're going to talk about mainly today is characters and posing, because, Harmony is great to do many things, from rough animation to compositing to rigging. But a lot of people ignore that you can also do some design work, including layout and character design in the software. So it'll be a little different flavor today, but it's a very uh, tasty subject. So
Mm-hmm.
let's get started with
Yeah.
this. Um, and don't forget that during these streams, they're recorded and they will be posted on the channel, on the YouTube channel, a bit later. And if you have any questions, you can ask them both on Twitch or on YouTube. We're kind of simultaneously streaming on both, and I'll be keeping a lookout on both platforms for questions and comments and stuff. So feel free to let us know of your thoughts and questions, and we'll be happy to answer it if we can. Most
Yeah.
of the time, we
Yeah. I mean, I could only open one stream at a time, but I will swap between the two, and I'll have a look
can.
at both chats as much as I can.
Oh, you don't have to worry about it. That's what I'm here for. Okay, so let's start with the start. Tell us about your like work journey. So how was it when you entered the industry?
Well, I went to art school. I went and studied in college specifically for animation at Algonquin College. And I made a ton of connections there through the teachers, through all the students that I met there, and through knowing the right people. I got started at my first industry job, which was Mercury Filmworks, working as an animator. And I joined in before I even finished school. It was it was the summer between my second and third year. And I got to work on my first ever project at that point.
Which was
Well, that goes into our next question, which you wanted to know
okay,
about
I'm
my
gonna
first
ask it
jobs.
properly. Yeah, can you tell us about your first job?
So at Mercury, my first production was working on The Lion Guard, where I worked as a crowd animator. They gave me just like some simple scenes to work on where I could just do like weight
Give life to the
shifts
crowd.
and give life to the crowd because they're still like an important part of a scene. They're not necessarily the like attention seeking part of a scene, but they're still part of it, and it's a great way for me to for like a complete junior level animator to sort of get familiar with how the pipeline works. So that's how I got my start working on the Lion Guard. And then over time, I was assigned some more challenging scenes, and then I eventually got promoted to like a just the like mid-level animator like uh, skill level, I guess, in the industry. And so I got I graduated school as well. Started working officially in 2018, and did work full time. I think at that point we were working on season 3 of The Lion Guard, and yeah, I just animated all the time for work, getting some good experience in uh, working on a Disney show. So it was a lot of like full animation that I was working on,
Yeah.
and
And that is so important to note. Like the first job you have might not always be like the perfect job that you aimed for right out of school. Like no one goes to animation school and be like, I want to be a crowd animator. Like, or maybe you do, and that's great. But like usually that's a bit more niche.
mhm.
And so the first gig you land is probably not the gig, but it's an important one because I guess you made lots of connection. You made lots of
Yeah.
connections in school, but you make
Mhm.
even more connections in a studio. So
Yes, absolutely. So through the studio, I ended up meeting like the directors, the producers, the character designers, all those different roles that weren't just in a school setting. So there was a lot I could just pull from learning from those people, those groups and
yeah,
stuff.
because you love designs and you love like to draw and do concepts, but was not the first gig.
Yeah.
Um, was there any other important first jobs that you had?
Yes.
Yeah.
So at Mercury, we were working a lot with rigs, and I love doodling and drawing, and so I wanted to get more out of my drawing abilities. So I also did some freelance work for Knights of the Light Table, where I worked on some music videos with a really small team. I was one
I
of
will share them in
their
the chat.
yes, I was one of their sole background illustrators, where I like drew the layouts and then the background painting. Um, and I worked on Starlight Brigade, which is a very popular music video now. I think it's
I
got
put it
like
in the chat.
several million views now at this point.
Yeah, I
And
don't
yeah, so
not many views.
that's where I got to experience more like design and like hand drawn work.
And also working on a small team because Mercury has huge team, and
That's
when we do
right.
more indie stuff like Starlight Brigade, it's probably a team of like how many fingers you have on both hands, or
Yeah, yeah. I think
more or less.
Starlight Brigade, I think was like a group of 10 people
Yeah, 10-ish
working on it.
people.
Yeah, very small.
Crazy.
Hmm.
Yeah, and and so you did a lot of Mercury and these indie um, projects. I mean, you did many things. It's just hard to pinpoint all the real things.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
Yeah. So while you do love um, character design, it was not your first job. Your first job was more like for animation,
yeah.
and yeah. So just a reminder to everyone that your first job that's not necessarily your dream job. So it's okay to
Yeah.
explore, and try new things, because yeah.
You end up like kind of working your way up through
Mm,
like I mean, you have to build the skills and the experience in order to like gain the trust of the producers that are placing you where you are.
yeah. Like personally, I always wanted to like manage project and like get things and people together, but you don't do that out of school. You need experience. And
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
think same goes for character design, because some people might get character design gigs straight out of school, but then oftentimes this can end up in designs that might be too complicated, that are not suited for animation and stuff. So I think, I mean, we're going to talk about that later, but I think there's a lot of things to be learned about starting low into
Yeah.
the pipeline and just working your way up into many different jobs.
Yeah.
Mhm. Speaking of which, what are some important things that you learned while being an animator that you can now apply to your design works?
Well, the 12 principles of animation. First of all, I trained using the 12 principles all the time. So it was really important that when I moved on to special posing, should I maybe explain what special posing is?
Yeah, that would be great. What is special posing? Because we keep talking, but that's important because character design to most people on the planet is like, I do turnarounds, like not
Oh,
even mouth or expression or hands, but character design is way more than just doing turnarounds, folks.
yeah, yeah.
So
It is.
I
It is
throw
a
it to
lot
you
of
now.
nodes. But basically, special posing is a job that gets done after all the storyboarding has been done and like approved and locked. So, as a posing artist, those drawings get handed off to me, like the very complex storytelling poses get handed off to me, and then I redraw them. Like it's a very very hand drawn sort of position if it's in a pipeline similar to Mercury, that does like puppet animation. So a very experienced character artist will draw the pose first and then get that through approvals and basically polish it up and make it like look really good because they're very important. Um, so I trained myself to draw like really exaggerated poses and like really pushing everything and like knowing what I was going to talk about, which was the 12 principles of animation. So I'd say like out of the 12 principles, the most important ones that I picked up a lot while drawing was appeal. So like you want the poses to look appealing. Like for example, here I'm drawing Chain with like a bit of a twist, like a bit of a curve in her back and how she's leaning, a little confident stance. So like that will make a pose way more appealing than if it were like just posed out with the rig from the model sheet. I also had to practice a lot of stretch and squash, so like maintaining the volume of a character and making sure that volume is maintained. I also have to think a lot about staging as a principle
Oh
in
yeah, that's
animation.
important.
So,
Mm-hmm.
like for example, here, like I have Chain's sword lining up with the rule of thirds, and like in this scene too, there's like a title that is up here, and I have that like on a rule of thirds. So like that's another principle that is super important. And exaggeration is like basically the foundation of special posing is just like how far can we exaggerate this character while maintaining their model, their volumes and all that stuff. It kind of ties in a little bit with stretch and squash, but exaggeration is more of just like how far can we pull it in that direction. And then the last principle that I think is super important
Mm-hmm.
is solid drawing. Solid drawing is kind of just respecting the model sheet a lot, making sure that everything feels clean, unlike this rough sketch I did over here. But making sure that it feels like the character is like planted in the ground, that it feels, solidified and stuff.
Yeah, these are
Um,
all important things to look out for special posing and also for a turn. Because like
yeah,
silhouette values and all these 12 principles, yes, apply to animation, but also apply to, the design that's going to be used for animation.
yeah. So for character designing, when you're like at the very first steps of like figuring out what the character looks like, there's some stuff that you can watch out for. So I've
Like what?
analyzed a ton of character turnarounds, like because I have to study them as a character artist. So
Mm-hmm.
most of the things that stand out of like what's important with a character turnaround is that the silhouette reads really clearly and that it's like different. Like you can tell who the character is based off of their silhouette, and that like not too many things are interacting with each other or overlapping. So like for example, here I'm trying to limit it to make her silhouette clear enough where you're like, oh, you can see that her arm is
Negative space is important.
yeah, negative space, being aware of those sorts of things. And while you're designing a character too, like after the line work is done and approved, you start thinking about the color palettes. So that would be trying to think of like, okay, what's the story? Where does this character come from? How can we represent that in the color palette that they're wearing? And so that's like another super important part of character design. Maybe
For
thinking
design, good
about,
advice I got. Oh, sorry.
yeah, go ahead. I'm talking a lot.
For it's okay. Then I mean that's what you're here for. But for designs, like a few good advice I got uh, in the past were like if you're doing a design before you do like the full turn or whatever, like just test if your design is like animation friendly, meaning that like what is the shorthand for that design? Because
Yeah,
if you have a character, you should be able to like sketch it in a few shape and you know it's the character. So like there's something that makes you know. Like for your character, if I were to rough sketch it, I would like maybe do like the shape of the hair a little bit and like that big triangle piece on their shoulders and the skirt and stuff. So
yeah,
there's like blocks of information you can have.
yeah,
It really helps to unclutter your character as well and make them
absolutely.
like
Yeah.
shapy.
Yeah. So, for example, when I designed Chain, I thought a lot about like the things that are kind of sticking out. So
Mm-hmm.
her sleeves, like from her gloves, are really big. Her hands are big because she
She has a
communicates
lot.
through. She actually uses sign language to talk. So like her hands are like a big part of her character. So they're
Oh, that's really important.
exaggerated. Yeah. And another thing for Chain that makes her face different from other characters is that she's got like a big nose,
Mm-hmm.
and like her hair looks like a helmet hair, like she's been
It
wearing a
does.
helmet
I
all
was about
day.
to sell you.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Maybe I should just
So
pull up
these
the
are all
model sheet.
important. Like it's like in a character, you have to kind of choose the most important battles in a way. Like choose what is the most important. Like if they have like very important hands, like make them stand out. Like don't give
Mm-hmm.
them special feet if the feet are not important. Like
Yeah,
don't put details everywhere.
yeah. You don't want to overcrowd it. You have to like pick and choose what parts of the character are the most
The
important.
design tells a story.
Yeah, exactly.
If it doesn't bring stuff anything to the story, it better be easy to draw.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, very interesting. Very interesting. Do you have anything else to add to like the little things to look out when you are
Yeah.
doing
So there's
postings?
when you're working on the color palettes, because I was going over colors.
Oh yeah.
You want to think about the values. So you want to like hit the right range. You don't want everything to be like under the same level of value. So when I mean value, I mean like look at a drawing in black and white. So like think about what's the most light and what's the most dark, and you want to like even out that range, not make everything feel gray. Um, you want
Yeah, make
like
some things pop out.
yeah, like variety in it and stuff is important. And then the last thing that's important about character design is it's another animation principle, which is
Mm-hmm.
exaggeration. So you want to exaggerate a character. Like if you line them up in a design, I can actually probably pull
Like
up.
all the characters side by side in a way.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yep.
I'll pull up a character model sheet here with the characters from this project. So um, this kid really lanky and tall, and like his design is more like exaggerated and sets him apart from the other characters in the model sheet. And like, um, well, I wanted these characters to look like they were related because this is her mother. So like they have a similar facial features, but things are still slightly exaggerated with like Chain's hands in comparison and stuff. Um,
And it's so nice, like to make characters kind of relate to like a style or like to each other, not like in a family way, but like in a style like that they're from the same universe. Some advice I got also in the past was like the whole body like proportions are not as important as the shape language you use for eyes, feet and hands. So like
Mm-hmm.
if your characters have certain hands and like four fingers, a thumb, like generally like how much you detail the hands, this usually should like be kind of constant throughout your characters, more so than like any proportion of their body. So but that's a little advice I got. Take
Yeah.
it or leave it, but
Yeah.
generally it helps,
Mm-hmm. That's
especially
great.
if you're starting out.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice, very nice. So much
Yeah.
thing. I hope you guys are taking notes, right? Because this is gold. This is
This
gold
is
nuggets of information.
informative stuff
Mm-hmm.
over here as I struggle with this
So
deformer.
yeah, okay. Well, struggle. I'll ask the next couple questions in the meantime. So as we said before, like character designing is more than just turnarounds. So we already established turnarounds and special posing. But other than turns and special posing, what can a character artist be expected to do? From like expression, hands, feet, special posing. Like there's so many things to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in a studio setting, there's typically like two, uh, I guess, levels of progress, or
Uh
what's
huh.
the word I'm looking for? Just like stages. That's the word. Where there's the pre-board and then there's the post-board. I have more experience personally working in post-board, so a lot of the like idea making has already been done, and I'm just kind of following along the design ideas that other people have made. Um, but yeah, so a pre-board process will look a lot at the designs based off of the script. So they'll look over like, oh, this character talks about drawing in their journal. We have to draw the design for the journal and for the pen that they end up using. So like that gets flagged as like we need a design for that. Um, and then there's stuff like, I mean, the main characters are super important to get the design for. Those get usually done like at the
Ahead.
beginning. Yeah,
Yeah.
and like usually those are like done by like the showrunners and stuff. Um, and like they end up taking a long time working on those designs
Yeah.
as well. They don't rush
But they're
through the main
important because they
characters.
establish the style, right? So.
Yeah, they do. And that process can take like years. Like if they're working on the pilot or something. But let's pretend that in this setting they're working on an episode where there's like a few new characters or something, some incidentals. That's what we call them, as like a character that doesn't show up too often, that is just like present for this one episode or whatever.
Uh
So
huh.
like a background character will get designed for the episode before the board is done, according to the script. And then things like the rotation of that new character get done, some head tilts if the character needs that kind of reference for the animators.
Mm-hmm.
Mouth charts are really important because that tells the animator like what kind of teeth they have. So, like for example, this character Chain, even though she doesn't talk and you don't see the inside of her mouth too much, she still has a gap in her teeth as just like a little detail that like I want to keep consistent. So here's an
Yeah.
example if
So
you can see that.
lovely.
So actually, yeah, this is a good example of like what a character designer might do pre-board. These are all still really rough, but there's the
I
like
love these drawings so much.
oh, thank you. Yeah, so
They have
there's
so much
just
life to them.
rotation. So this is an example of a head tilt of like what she would look like looking down, what she would look like looking up, an extreme stretch, and then an extreme squash over here. These are mostly just examples of like the kind of poses I would get as a special posing artist. Um, they're like really rough thumbnails that I would then flesh out into these a little bit more clean. Here you go. That's the head tilt's more cleaned up. Um, but yeah, character designers will also put together hand charts because hands are so complex to draw, and
They are.
they're also a little tough to build in the rig, which is what I'm doing right now. Because it looks really clunky right now how she's holding the sword. So I got to draw a new hand with the rig. Um, but
Usually hands when I animate, I always do. I mean, I think everybody does. Like we usually do them last.
yeah, because
I'll usually make like a placeholder disgusting hand that's just like a bunch of scribbles. Of like, if the
yeah,
is right, I will clean that hand, but I will only clean that hand if I have to.
yeah.
It better be
Let's
right.
let's see. Actually, I do really want to make a new hand. Drawing, create a drawing. There we go. Yeah. So a hand chart will be made by a character designer, and that will then be looked at by the builds team, and then the builds team will incorporate that hand drawing in in the build, right? Like as I'm doing right now, really
Mm-hmm.
roughly, just drawing a tiny little hand holding the sword. Um, yeah, and then an expression sheet will be done as well by the character design team, and any sort of posing sheet. So a great example of a posing sheet would just be this thing that I pulled up right here. Um, yeah, just showing a little bit of like the character's demeanor and like how their eyebrows might move. Chain has really strange eyebrows where there's like an inner arch that goes down to the bridge of her nose. But when she's doing a scream, an extreme squash, her eyebrow flips, which is kind of an unusual design choice that I made. But yeah, then there's also post board, which will go over anything that was like that kind of slipped through the cracks. So like that pen and paper that I mentioned earlier, if there was no design made for the pen and paper before the storyboard was drawn, then that kind of thing will get designed by the design team as well.
Is it
Uh,
me or is the sole of the shoes always forgotten? In all the show I've worked on, we
oh
never get the
yeah,
sole of the shoes until the episode was like delivered and like, oh, you didn't get the sole of the shoes right, but like you asked them like 5 months ago and they never delivered it, so you had
yeah,
to make do.
yeah. That is another one. It's happened a few times where I'm just kind of like, I think this is what the sole of the shoe would look like, just like straight line. Like, I think Disney would
And
be
you
okay
hope
with
it goes
that.
well and
Yeah,
no one notices.
exactly.
Boy.
But like anything that you visibly see that like needs to get built, like an animator can't necessarily come up with that on the fly when they're working on their scenes. Like it has to go
They
through
can
like
if it
a
was
full
their project,
process.
but when they're working for someone else, it needs to be like, designed and stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting, interesting. Let me go on. Okay, so um we already touched base a little bit about like what special posing is, but is there anything you forgot or that you want to we can give like a little quick explanation for maybe the people that just showed up, but we did talk about it before.
Yeah, so special posing is a process that gets done after the storyboard has been uh, locked and approved and complete. So it'll basically just be the pass done by an artist who specializes in like knowing the model sheet really well. So, like for example, I have this character that I've designed. I know her model sheet very well. I've studied her. I've practiced her. And let's say that in the storyboard, I have these really rough drawings that like are slightly more complex, like this one. That is a perfect example of a complex pose that would be approached by a special posing artist before it goes to an animator. Um, so that's basically what the special posing role is. Um, what was your question again?
I was just making sure that we didn't forget that about, I mean, that you didn't forget anything you wanted to say about special posing.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. that
Just
it's
checking.
yeah.
And now we get to the meat of thing. We are going to like see in real time like what like maybe like a process of how to approach visual posing. But before that, there's something important. As animator, as artists, like we work a lot of time for like gigs and studios and projects, which is great. But sometimes to fuel our little art fire, we need something more than just work. Um, so, what drives you to create outside of work?
Well,
Well, well, well.
I like play a lot of D&D. So that's basically
Oh, a
what this
fellow D
character
and D
is.
nerd. That's great.
Yeah, I play a lot of tabletop imaginary world games with my friends, and I end up making these characters. This character being one of them, and I don't know. It's a creative outlet that sparks a lot of ideas
How
that I want
how
to
did we call it
visualize.
before? A oh yeah, the fuel, the renewable energy fuel,
Yes,
like
yeah,
clean energy.
clean energy, yeah. And it's like completely like just for fun. It's what I was doing like as a teenager, just coming up with OCs. So I take a lot of inspiration for my characters that I make from video games and music and movies, and so I'm constantly being a consumer as well as someone who makes things. I gotta consume every once in a
Aren't we
while.
all?
Yeah. Um, so yeah, that's my main drive is D&D and stuff for like my personal projects, but I also take on like smaller projects here and there. I make a lot of paintings for people like as a gift
Mm-hmm.
because I'm just like, I have no idea what to get for this friend. Like what thing should I shop for? And then they have a dog, so I'm just like, perfect. I will paint a dog for them and they will love it. So that's just
Honestly,
like,
arts and food are some of the best gifts you can give to people.
yeah, yeah, it's a really useful skill. Also, is that a dog back there I hear?
It was
Yeah, see what I mean? There's dogs everywhere, so it's a
dogs
great gift
everywhere.
idea. um, but yeah, I stay inspired by a lot of what's around me. I can't help just sticking to the work I do, because like my work is a little bit restrictive where like I just end up
Mm-hmm.
doing these characters for a year straight. So I want to study other things. I want to practice drawing animals and whatnot.
Oh,
So I practice
it's not in
several
the
other
question, but I
things.
just thought about it. Do you have
Yeah,
the same thing, like where whenever I work on a show, after that, like each show I worked on kind of built on my, not my style, but like the way I draw, like influenced the way I draw. So after a production,
absolutely.
we
Yeah,
know, yeah, like each production influences you so much.
it does. Yeah,
Sometimes you don't
absolutely.
notice, but people around you notice, like, oh, you draw hands like these now, like, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, so one of my influences a couple years back was when I was working on Kid Cosmic. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, wow, I did not know that dot eyes could be so expressive and like adorable. So I went
Oh
through a
yeah,
phase where I was like giving myself dot eyes whenever I was characterizing myself. It's just like, it's adorable.
I like the dot eyes and glasses mix. There's
Yeah,
something about it,
yeah.
right?
And
It's
that's
so
what my
nice.
design is. I have big glasses and then like I draw the little dot
Mm-hmm.
eyes and it's just cute to like make them blink and have like little tension wrinkle lines underneath and stuff. It's
Right?
fun. Mhm.
So cute. Okay, and personal projects. What are you working on at the moment? What is this gorgeous character and gorgeous scenery I'm seeing with my eyeballs at the moment?
Yeah, I'm glad you
Yeah, yeah.
asked because it has kind of
Mm-hmm.
been an elephant that hasn't been addressed. But yeah, this is my D&D character. Her name is Chain. She is a paladin, so she has a very cute, humble, backstory world that she lives in, where she's just part of this cute little village. And I'm just making a short that's supposed to kind of represent her origin story. So let me just hide some of this stuff so that I can show you the actual scene that I'm putting together here. So this would be like basically like if this is a video game, this is the title sequence, the opening shot. Just put that over here. So it's like a little pan of the village that she lives in. This is her house, and she's just looking at it, and she's like, "Yeah, I will protect this city. This city's mine.
Yeah.
This little village." Yeah, very very Zelda inspired.
Let's go.
Yeah, so that's the project I'm working on. It's a short, 40-second long little video that has a song playing in it, and it's just about her little origin story. And that's it. Yeah, it's a little project.
Amazing. And yeah, so what is your going back to, character design and special posing, can you give us an example of how you approach making a special pose from a model? Because some people might just go be like, I will be super star talented and I'm just gonna nail it without reference or whatever. But that's not how it works.
Yeah, not really. So I can
Nope.
show a little bit of a live demo of how that would work. So here's my sketch layer. Let's pull up her model sheet as well. So let's go down over here and flip it to the rotation. And what I'll do is basically just draw on top of the rotation. So like, let's actually, I can maybe, can I? No, I can't click and drag that in. I'll just import one of the, all right. I'll just draw one. I'll just draw live. Why not? Okay, so brush tool. Here we go. So I will try and I'll recreate her stretched up face, like this one. Like I'll just make an expression. So typically I'll have the model sheet always next to me or like within the file that I work in. And just put that there. I'll have it like set to a transparency so that like it's kind of light and I can draw over top of it and stuff. I want that to be on top.
And by the way, if you guys are using Harmony but you don't have Premium, or even if you have Premium, you can always lower the transparency from the layer directly. You don't always need the node.
Yeah. Let's lower the thing even more. Am I doing it on the wrong way?
Yeah, if you want it to be... No, I think you were on the right one.
I just want it to be in front. I think I have to just pull it in front over her. It is also incredibly warm in here. Yay, summer. What if I change it to a black?
Oh, I think it worked. I saw it come in front. I mean, if you want to draw in front, you can also just use the
I can make
drawing on top. No, but you can just click on the keep drawing on top, like the thing at the bottom left of your screen, of your camera view.
Let me see if this works. There we go. Okay.
Yeah, amazing.
Perfect. Now my power is back.
Let's go.
What layer is that beard on? I don't know. We're going to ignore it. So let's draw her face kind of stretched a lot more. So it's kind of like animating where I just pull things up, like stretching it and then like manipulating it a little bit like that.
Up and down.
Yeah. So stretching that up. Pulling the mouth down. Really just going crazy with the pushing and the pulling and all that
Let's
stuff.
go bonkers.
Yeah, exactly. Making the pupils tiny. Sometimes it's like appealing to make them uh,
Oh yeah.
go more like, because like right now she's wall-eyed like this, so like something that we do is just like let's draw that slightly cross-eyed like in the middle. Let's favor the middle of it a little bit more. I'll push the hair up too because I don't want that to get too much in the way
Hide
of
the
her
eyebrows.
eyebrows. Yeah,
Yep.
can pull that up a little, stretch the entire head basically. So
Another advice I got is like this. It needs to be kind of in a gradient. Like the face stretches a lot, but usually like if it's the top of the head or like the bottom of the like the head shape itself doesn't stretch as much as the facial feature. It's kind of an advice I got to keep it tame.
yeah.
Unless you're working on a bonkers show, but like if it's a bit more realistic like that, no.
So now I'm
Mm.
just gonna like draw her face really neutral and then flip between the two drawings, and then you'll be able to see that sort of special touch of like animating. I don't need to draw her color.
Honestly, being able to flip is what makes me kind of enjoy designing in animation software. There's
Yeah,
something about it.
yeah, being able to flip really like, I don't special closing by accident. Um, is yeah, it's so helpful. It's seeing the thing move before your eyes. It's coming to life. It's alive. Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
let's turn off the reference, and then you look at that. She's flipping.
So nice.
I think I maybe pulled the jaw forward a little too much.
I mean, for a first try, I think it works kind of cool.
For
Then you
first
can just
try, I took my head.
then you can just finish like mess with the little things.
Yeah.
Flip it with the mirror view and see like, oh my god, what happened?
Yeah. So, uh, this is like a good like react and take of her like looking up a little, tilting it, and then between these two poses is a great opportunity to. Oops, this is the wrong layer. Don't you just love it when that happens? Everyone does it. There we go.
When what happened?
When you draw on the wrong layer.
Well, at least Harmony's a bit more forgiving about it than when I was a kid. I was doing that in like raster softwares, and then you draw
Mm,
you clean your liner on your sketch, and then you cry.
yeah.
You don't have
Oof.
any select by color tool to select all the line color. You're screwed.
Yeah. So now I can draw like a squashed down sort of face.
And I see that you are not relying on the onion skin,
No, I tend
right?
to look, when I have onion skin on, it kind of distracts me a little too much.
Right?
So
Me
I
too.
like to flip the way that I like was trained to do it with, which was like on paper. Um,
So for people in the audience, this is a very, very, very solid advice. Like onion skin is good for very, very, very close in between when you're doing like hand drawn animation or something. But if you're designing or making extreme poses like that, flipping brings so much life, so much more life to your drawings. So that's yeah, you have two people here recommending it. So try it.
yeah,
If it
yeah.
works for you, probably does.
Oh, I think my shorts have arrived in the mail.
Okay,
Yay!
well, in the meantime, I will keep talking. So don't worry, I'm holding the forts.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I will go look at these tasty questions we got into the chat. So,
Put
do
it
you
up.
put a character attitude into your turnarounds? So, I mean, Caroline can answer a bit more later, but from the basics of what I know, if it's for a hand drawn animation show, they tend to put a bit more attitude into the character because the reference is made for artists to redraw the character. If you're doing a turnaround for a rigged, like a puppet show, it's not about attitude, it's about your turnaround being as faithful as you can as it turns, because this is going to be used to build a puppet that you will then style to give it attitude. So for hand drawn, it doesn't have to be exactly matching in terms of poses when you turn it around. Sometimes they have them lean on their hips a bit more, or have little simple arm gestures. But if you're doing something for a rig, you have to make sure it rotates properly. That's like the main focus. So for damaged films, that's kind of my answer to your question of do you put a character attitude into your turnarounds? It really depends on the what is it for. Do I have my guests back? No. So a second question. Um, let's see what we have here. Our principles for cutout animation or hand-drawn animation. So the 12 principles of animation are important to everyone.
I'm back, by the
If
way.
you're doing hand-drawn or cutout animation, it's good for everyone. Oh well, hello there.
Hello.
I was just answering a very fast question of damaged films, asking, do you put a character attitude into your turnarounds? My answer was it
Um,
depends. Hand drawn, maybe. Rigged, not really.
yeah, rigged, not really. Hand drawn, I've definitely seen like model
Yep.
sheets from like Disney where they're like, oh yeah, we want to show what the characters, sort of, what their personality is like, what their kind of vibe
But it's
is.
very tame. Like it's like maybe like a
Yeah.
slight tilt, little attitude. For hand drawn, yes.
Hmm.
Not for rigged, not that I know.
So for rigs, there are like I have had an experience where like a character, an incidental character, came in, like the build had too much personality in its
Yeah.
pose, and so it's like, okay, now I have to, every time I animate this character, I have to put them back into a neutral stance,
Backpedal.
backpedal, and then work out of that, which is a little bit like counterproductive. So it helps a lot more for them to just be flat rotation. But yeah, that is a great answer though. Of like, um, for 2D hand drawn, I guess that is true for them to just be basic.
My
Or
answer came from
yeah,
experience, sadly. I worked on a puppet show that was not supposed to be puppet, and 100% of our turns were hand drawn turns with attitude and not rotating. It was great. Not, it was not great. Never again, please. Oh, glitch text.
yay.
What a train to work on. Anyway, back to our lovely subject matter of a little demonstration of your advice for special posing. We were
Yeah,
just talking about onion skinning versus flipping and
yeah,
agreeing that flipping is better for more life to your drawing.
yeah. It's also just kind of what I'm used to. Because yeah, drawing on paper and all that. I think I already explained that. But yeah, I look more at solid pictures, and I flip with my brain more than I flip with the program. um, yeah, I can also try and pull up a bit more of a like a full on pose sort of idea of like how I'd approach that. So like, let's think about a pose where she's like hunched over. So like making a hunched over pose with a build would be really challenging because you're like
I
fighting
think that's my
the
favorite way to
pieces.
test my rig.
Yeah, yeah, it is a good way to see how it works. So like
Because
I'm
oftentimes people are like, how do I learn rigging? I'm like, unless you go to a very, 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 very qualified school that does teach rigging, usually you have to teach it to yourself, right? You just want to animate, so therefore you make
yeah.
a rig. I think we have the same experience in that end. None of us went to
Yeah.
school for rigging.
Yeah, my school taught it at a very basic level, and like
Yeah,
even then, like my experience at school didn't totally teach me how to rig. It was through animating every
the
day
rig.
that I
Yep.
end up learning how to rig. And obviously because I have you as a connection, I have learned.
And I have you as a connection.
Oh, we're just, yeah,
Double connection.
we're
I know
able
sometimes you're like,
to help
how
each
do
other
I
out.
rig this? And I'm like, is that right for animation? So
Yeah.
we try our best to do the things. But if
Yeah.
you're learning rigging or character designing or whatever, or any of those things, the more you do it, the better. But the more you test it, because you can do 10 different rigs and be like, look, they can turn. And if you never animate them, you never know if they're good or not. Like,
Yeah.
knowing if your rig is good or not, the best way to know it is by trying to move it. Try to have your character like hunched forward or backward and see
Yeah.
how how well it goes.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So right now I'm just like really roughing out like a weird pose. Like I'm trying to like add some foreshortening to this arm. So like trying to think of like how it would coil forward and how the hand might foreshorten over here. It's kind of a bit crazy. um, yeah. So basically, I'd have like the rough sketch done, and then I would clean it up, and then get it through a round of like an approval from a director, and then they would give me some small corrections. Hopefully, they're small corrections, and then after doing the corrections, I would like. Well, then it would go to an animator who would then trace over the pose with the rig. Um, and tracing over the pose was what I was doing earlier over here, where I like had a sketch and then I just traced over the sketch with the rig. That's typically a great way to do it, even if you're not a special posing artist, of just like if you're an animator and you know how to draw, knowing how to do that process is really great. So I just realized it is almost 4 o'clock already. Did I lose Z? I can't hear her.
Oh no, sorry, I'm here.
There
I
you are.
my mic my mic was set to mute. Interesting.
Ooh, cool.
I didn't know you could do that. That's cool. um yeah, so I know there's like a couple of minutes left, but don't worry, we will wrap this up the good way. It'll be fine. Um yeah, so do you have anything that is very important that we forgot that you wanted to add for like the last 5 minutes?
I guess um, if there's like, here, let me look at, let me reread what I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
Um, yes, so I do a lot of traditional work as
Oh
well.
yeah, that's a good part. Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, I work traditionally all the time. Like I mentioned earlier, I paint like dogs for people for fun. But I also used to attend life drawing classes, and I would draw from life all the time. I would draw poses, and that gave me a good understanding of like shorthand, how to draw quickly, how to draw efficiently, and like how basically I can adapt reality, um, and like kind of give it my own animated hand approach to it. So I think to be a great artist, having experience doing hand drawn, like actually physical mediums is great.
It's so
It's
helpful.
it's accessible too. Like it's really easy to just go get a sketchbook from the dollar store and then get going. It's a great way to learn how to draw, and like just drawing reality, draw plants, draw your pets, all that
And
stuff.
it's also so important to sometimes leave the screen. People are like, oh, I'm so burned out. I can't do art. But like, all they do is do art on the
Yeah,
computer, sitting at a desk like 10 hours a day. I'm like, dude, go outside, draw something, take a
yeah,
paper, take some
yeah.
crayons, draw on your
And
walls or something. I don't know, do something.
something else that is like really cool that I wanted to mention is that a lot of my friends are artists as well. And a
Oh,
great
yeah.
way for us to hang out is to just draw together. Like we gather around
Doodle.
with our sketchbooks and doodle, and it's like a super fun social activity that we get to do. And like I don't personally draw in sketchbooks too often, but I really wish I did, because I have a friend who he draws in his sketchbook all the time, and whenever he flips through it, I'm just like, oh my god, that's insanely cool. Like I wish I was
Right?
doing that.
I used to not sketch into sketchbook that much because I was like, oh, but what if I mess up? But now I just own it. I'm like, my sketchbook, most pages are going to look awful, but some of them are going to be golden nugget. And I just have to accept it. But it took me
Yeah.
forever to accept it.
Yeah.
Like all that sketchbook anxiety because all these artists, they're like, this is my sketchbook. And they like put it outside and they flip them on their YouTube channel. But like, it's not actually like they're like, it's sometimes it's fake. And it's like, no, it can't be always that beautiful. So,
Yep. Yep.
oh well.
And there's
It
something
takes.
special too about like looking at a physical drawing rather than a digital drawing,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yep, yep, yep. This is so interesting. We could talk for 3 hours more and it would still be very interesting, but I guess we'll just have to, re-invite you a second time.
Yeah. I'm cool with
Because
that.
I'm also cool with that. Let it be known we had much more to talk about, but hey,
Hmm.
we have only an hour and 3 minutes. Um, you had some material reference from artists that you look up to that we could share.
Oh
Maybe like just
yeah.
go about like the names quickly so we can. I'll put them into the chat so that people can just see them.
Yes. So it is so tough for me to pick out some of my top
Yep.
favorite artists. And this list like changes all the time. But TB Choi is an artist on Twitter that I follow that I really, really love specifically for um, like how they do life drawing and anatomy and like musculature and stuff. They're an excellent artist. And as far as like character designers go, I really like Rebecca Sugar. She did such an impactful change in like TV for animation with the Steven Universe,
Yep.
and her character designs on Steven Universe really inspired me to like think of character design in a different way.
Same. Like I read the art book for Steven Universe, and what is amazing for that and Adventure Time because she worked on both.
Yeah,
There's so much drawing from her like sketchbook, but like when something is wrong, she just takes post-it and post it on top and then fixes it. And I'm like
yeah,
mind blown. I've been doing that ever since for like since years, and it's
yeah.
so great.
It's such a like, oh, that's a hand drawn
It's like
tactile
a new
approach.
layer,
Yeah, it's a new
right?
layer. Yeah.
So
Um,
nice.
as far as other inspirations go, Brian Konietzko, who is one of the co-creators of Avatar: The Last Airbender, is my favorite cartoon ever. Um,
Me too.
so his art direction, his ideas, I am in love with. Uh, then India Swift, I also mention as one of my favorite artists that I look up to because I've worked with her directly, and she is able to draw anything, and she does it super beautifully, and she animates incredibly, storyboards incredibly. Like
I know
she's
some
she
people just got it
is
all.
such a powerhouse. Um, then
I mean,
there's
not to brag, but you're a powerhouse yourself. I'm just saying.
yeah,
I'm just saying.
I'm
If I were in
learning.
another stream, I would say that about you. I'll be like, oh, I know Caroline. She does all these good things. So yeah, just saying.
um, and then I also mentioned Loish, just because she has been like part of the like internet art.
Uh
Uh,
huh.
what's the
Her
word?
books are
Environment.
very, very insightful.
Yeah, yeah. She's just a huge like inspiration for like just shapeliness and
She makes me think of
appeal.
drawing with waffles in the way that they make art and design so accessible. Like you don't need like to be a 30-person years of experience to just nail a hand drawing. It's
Yeah,
very nice.
yeah. So that's where I drop Loish's name, and then I'm also gonna name drop another friend, Shane Plant. He actually did like the trailer for Toon Boom 22. Like
Yep.
that was his project. He directed all that. Uh, he is so cool, such an inspiration, super hilarious too, and yeah, he's got excellent, excellent drawings, excellent work, excellent direction, everything. Yeah, that's my list of cool people.
And where can we find you and your beautiful projects? Where do you usually post online? Is there a place you have like Twitter or YouTube's or both? I mean, I know
So
you have both, but like, where can we find you?
I'm on Twitter and Instagram, but I also have a website, which is kind of
Ooh,
easier. Yeah, you already put the website. Cool. Thank you, Toon Boom. Yeah, so there's my website, and then my Twitter and Instagram is Raz Renee, and then the other one is razrenee.art. I think that's my, yeah, Instagram is razrenee.art. Let me just put that nice and clear. And then my Twitter is just Raz Renee. And there's my handles for where to find me.
that's amazing. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank
And
you for having me.
yeah, yeah.
Always fun to hang
And
out with
if
you.
oh, thank you. It's always I'm really happy you accepted to come do this little Twitch and YouTube stream because you're pretty fun to hang out with too.
Oh,
In the chat of both the YouTube and the Twitch stream, I'm also leaving some art community you can join if you want to learn more about art, not specifically Toon Boom, but just like art in general. And we also have the Toon Boom community page that you can take a look at. We have a lot of very useful links in there. Right there. Oops. Yes, I'm gonna post it right here. And I guess we'll see you again in the future stream. Any last words?
thank you for participating and listening and all that. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Bye bye, everyone.